Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Band of Gamers podcast, episode number 93. I'm your host, Osiris Prime, and tonight it is just one other. It's Mr. Zeus Adamus. Zeus.
I am broadcasting from a newly rebuilt PC.
Oh, nice. That's always good.
No, not really. It was an emergent rebuild, not a deliberate.
Oh, not a planned.
Yeah, no.
Then it's not so good.
Yeah, I apparently nuked the operating system drive while trying to clone and replace and swap the storage drive for a new SSD. I wound up with the clone and the original in the same box, and it looks like something got confused, and the master boot record got deleted, and I wound up spending Saturday night rebuilding it and reinstalling it. So it's all good. I had just built this PC 6 weeks ago, so I wasn't too tied to it. I did have to redo the work. It'll be interesting to see how video editing and audio editing go on the podcast and my other content, because that's, if I had anything, that's kind of what I had locked down on this. Was I had figured a lot of stuff out since I built this dedicated multimedia editing box, and now it's poof gone.
Right.
We're here to talk about online gaming services, I think.
Yes. Yes, we'll go through online gaming services. That's going to be our topic of the week here, and then we'll go to what we've been playing this past week. Actually, I got kind of a lot just because I wasn't here last week, but I'll try to run through it as fast as I can. So the online gaming services, this kind of came about because Nintendo had announced last week that they were delaying their online gaming service for Switch until next year, and they laid out some details and stuff. Maybe I'll go into that Thursday during our news section. But I was just kind of thinking back on just on kind of online gaming services as a whole in general, and just kind of where it started. We got a list here of a bunch of services that we'll go through here tonight. Some I've never heard of, some I've kind of heard of here and there back in the day. But I just want to kind of walk through that and just kind of see where it started and where it kind of is leading up to in the future, or if there's a future, see how it evolves. So we got Sega Channel back in winter of 1994. That was one I think I might have heard of, but I really wasn't sure what it was. I had to do a little. I actually looked it up off your link there, and I guess it was back on the Genesis console that it started, or that it was on. It was the service. I don't know. Did you ever use that? I don't think you did. As far as I guess when we were talking here at the beginning.
Yeah, no, we wanted to do a historical rundown before we got up to the Switch, and we thought it was important to kind of fill in some of the blanks and kind of walk through a little bit of how we got here from there. So no, I did not use the Sega Channel. I guess this came out in like the winter of 1994, specifically for the Genesis, and I didn't have any concept of what playing online was back then.
Yeah.
And I was moving around a lot, and I was at places where I couldn't necessarily game all the time, and I definitely didn't have connectivity. So I guess this was for really, really, really early adopters, but I never hear anybody talk about this, so I don't know if anybody ever used it.
Yeah, well, definitely not me. So then we jump up, same year, 1994, we jump to the X Band, which that one I definitely never heard of before. Sega Channel, I think I've seen mentioned here and there, but
so that's weird because for me, I definitely heard of X Band, and I can still remember the logo with like the big, like, I think it was like it looks like an X, like written like with chalk, with a really thin like an end of the one cross, right, that tapered off, and that's the service I do remember. I don't remember anything about the Sega Channel, but I just remember it being there and me thinking like, oh, that's cool, but it has to be inherently janky. So I just never pulled the thread on it.
Yeah, and then that was a separate kind of or company, I should say, that was supposed to be for the Super NES and Genesis. So,
right.
That would have been interesting back in the day. That I guess it'd have to be dial up unless you're like super rich. I don't think there was any really broadband around at that time. So
no, and I can remember thinking back then, like, even if I got it, it would have to be like war games, like with this really like horrible, like big clunky, like Ma Bell telephone, right? That you would stick on the thing and like connect to something. And I was like, I can't imagine that that's any good.
Yeah, I mean, I never really even, back in those first 94, some of these are what, 95, 96. I was not even thinking of online games, I guess, at that point. And we had our group of friends that we'd play with locally. So it just, I don't know, if someone came and told me that, I would have been like, you know what, get out of here. Come on. Who wants to, play with somebody on the other side of the country or the world or something like that? So
Right, right.
it's a little weird.
And like, how would you, and like, you would all have to have the same game? I just don't know. I don't know how that worked.
Yeah, which actually brings us to the next one, the NetLink. This is another Sega product that was for the Sega Saturn. And from what I was reading here, it was just the one where it was just like person to person or something like that. I'm trying to look real quick here now. I can't find. Maybe it was one of the other ones. Maybe it was the next one. But yeah, this was for the Sega Saturn. You had, once again, it was dial-up, obviously. And
Yeah.
this was, what was this, 96?
Yeah, so this was a 28.8K modem. The thing, and I do remember this, the thing that was most interesting about this was it was a first-party peripheral that actually attached directly to your unit
Right.
with specific connections that were designed for that specific purpose. And this is where I became a little more consciously aware of these add-ons, because I do recall that the price for this thing was $200, and me going, like, am I going to throw down that much coin for this thing? And like, what's the use case, right? Like, I just didn't see. I just didn't see making that investment without a ton of gamers being behind it. And I guess I should maybe go back too. Like during this time, like I wasn't conscious of the notion of a gaming community either. At most, it was like people who read GamePro, like, and would actually send in letters. That was my only conscious awareness, that there were other people, like me, on a global scale, right? I remember it was always you bought your console and you sat, next to a friend if they came over to your house. But for me, that would require, I don't know. There just wasn't that sense of local camaraderie at all of somebody who owned the same console and played the same game. So the notion of that existing on a global scale was just kind of foreign to me.
Yeah. So actually, this was the one where I guess you just call whoever the person you want to link up with. So it's just 1-to-1. So that's a little weird. There was no central service. So, and then
right. Except in Japan. So in Japan, they actually had Sega Net. And so they would connect through a central hub through there.
Yes, yeah, they're more advanced. Well, yeah, they've always been ahead as far as bandwidth, so probably still are. I'm sure. I'm sure we're light years behind, but maybe one day.
So this next section, if you don't mind, if I roll with this one.
No, go ahead. Yeah, that's totally you.
So I stuck this in. It's different than consoles, but I stuck it in because kind of what I've been talking about, and like, that there were these things historically that allowed people to connect online, but like I just didn't consciously, it just didn't compute. But this late 90s state of PC online gaming, I became like out of nowhere, super hyper aware. And that's because in 1999, actually, I bought my first computer that I quickly converted to a gaming PC by sticking a Voodoo Banshee card in there. And started avidly PC gaming, and it just grew from there, and really impacted how I console game as well. But so I, up till then, I had been, I'd played on the Sega Saturn, and then by this time I was on the PlayStation. And about this time I would also grab a Dreamcast, and I was very aware of these services, and how to play online, because I had a buddy of mine who owned his own small business. Took me down to their offices one weekend, and I played on a LAN with these guys and played Half-Life. And that was the first point that I was really like, this is amazing. Like, if I could do this all the time, that would be incredible. And so I became aware of these services, and I played I played a few games on them, like X-Wing Alliance. I joined, what was the group called? I joined a group called X-Wing Squadrons or Star Wars Squadrons or something like that. It was an online gaming club of people who played all the Star Wars games. And they were very organized, like you would be put in a wing and stuff like that. But again, I became aware of these services. I became hyper aware too, because the state of the industry at this time was, many a time when you bought a game on PC and it had a multiplayer component, it was wired to work with one of these services specifically. And typically the client for these services, so all these services would install as a client application on your desktop. And that's how you would connect. And a lot of times what you had to do is you had to bring the client up and connect and log in and connect to the service and then start your game. And sometimes you had to go back and forth with Alt-Tab to get into the control thing, and it was just janky. But what I was really conscious of back then was, like I said, most of the time you bought a game, it came with a specific service that it was wired to, and you had to install that client. And typically you couldn't install the game, you couldn't completely install the game without going through, you were forced to install this multiplayer client. And so, much like I complain about today, right? As Prime, you're well aware of, like I complain very heatedly when I'm forced to, for a game that I have, to sign up for a publisher's online service account, because I'm like, I shouldn't have to have any accounts other than Steam, Xbox Live, and PlayStation Network, and I guess and whatever the Switch is. So, I shouldn't have to have a Gray Box account and an Ubisoft account, and I shouldn't have to have Origin, but going through this historically was kind of a good reminder to me that where we are now isn't really that far different from where we were. And all these services, were prevalent then and played off of dial-up. And you had discrete usernames and passwords for all of them, right? So there was MPlayer, MSN Gaming Zone, GameSpy, which was also famously a website that also had its own online gaming service. That was eventually absorbed. The website and its employees were eventually absorbed by IGN, and then the online service stopped. One.net. Now that's what, like, we all, like avid PC gamers, I'm certain we all forget that that's how you played Half-Life. Was you had a One.net account, and you started up the client, and that's how you logged in. There was no Steam. And then, of course, I think, last couple of weeks you've been talking about, or maybe I guess DB was talking about playing Diablo, so you also had Battle.net. Yeah. And Yahoo Games had its own client. So the state, as we talk about going from the Saturn into the modern time of online gaming services, the state on the PC at least was that you had multiple online gaming services and multiple companies trying to get into this industry and provide this infrastructure, just as we were kind of turning the corner towards broadband becoming available on a limited basis, and before springboarding out into wide distribution. So I'll let you go ahead and continue with the rest of bringing us up to current times.
Yeah, I just want to say, this was probably around the same time. I didn't use any of these services, but kind of like you with the LAN play, I kind of, it was kind of a first step, I guess you want to call it. I'd have a bunch of people in my house playing Call of Duty. What do you call it? Red Alert and Red Alert 2. That was kind of my first foray into that LAN playing, just kind of, a different community than just, although technically we're obviously still sitting in the same room, but, we're all connected, and that kind of, flourished later on. But yeah, it was cool. It was something different. And most of these I've heard. I never heard of One.net just because I never played Half-Life. So obviously Battle.net I've heard of, and Yahoo Games and MSN Gaming Zone. So, but that brings us to the SegaNet/Heat.net, which was another PC service. Excuse me. It's kind of in the same vein. You could play like Quake 2 and Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. I guess it was based off the MPlayer system or service at some point.
Yeah, I guess they licensed some of the proprietary technology and then branded their own service for it.
Yeah, and I was reading through this on the link here, and it seems kind of cool because you like earn. I guess you still pay a monthly fee, but you like earn like the different what was it called, degrees? I guess, which is kind of the currency of the system, which you can then go ahead and use to buy stuff and whatnot through the system. So I thought that was kind of cool. And but I guess like kind of later on in that same article, people started abusing that system, and which is pretty much why they went out of business, because they just couldn't keep up with everybody getting like $10 or whatever worth of that money, whatever it was worth in real money. So they kind of had to shutter down the service. But I thought that was kind of cool, and it almost like I know a lot of people for Xbox Live and I guess PSN too, it's kind of the same thing that people want the achievements and the trophies to be at some point, or they wanted it to be, where you kind of you earn those points and achievements and stuff, and then you can use it to buy stuff or maybe do like discounts or something on games or whatever, which is, I guess it'd be kind of cool, but I guess it's hard to police. Maybe it might be a little bit easier now. So then we jump, and that was September 2000 for Heat.net, SegaNet. And then we jump up to 2002, where we get Xbox Live first started off, and that actually started off on the original Xbox, I believe, correct? Because I didn't have the original Xbox, so.
Yeah, so and that's actually how I got super attracted to it. I had an Xbox, but didn't sign up for the service. But I went to a buddy's house and played Halo online, and was just floored by the service and the fact that it meant, and that was the first time that I latched on to the realization that the big game changer in that service was it was lockbox, and that meant no cheating, because that was something that had gone huge in the PC gaming community, and outside of things like Punkbuster and the heavy policing on Battle.net, like there was really no way to stop it. So this was at a point where I had drifted away from gaming online on the PC, and then was exposed to this. I discovered it in experience right before the 360 came out. I think I played it like that spring before the 360 came out, and then the 360 dropped, and that's one of the reasons why I immediately plunked down with a pre-order.
Yeah, and it didn't start when the original Xbox was released, right? It came a little bit later on.
I think so. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure when it arrived, but I played it. Like in the spring, in its last spring before it gave way to the 360 that fall.
Oh, okay.
So by then it was definitely, well in hand.
Yeah, kind of a jumping on point. So actually, before we get to the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection here, I just want to talk about just kind of PC in general, I guess. And like there obviously there were these other services, and even Microsoft had what was it? Microsoft Gaming Live Store. I don't know. They've called it like a bunch of different things. And I guess you got Steam now, which is kind of a service, I guess, but that's more kind of like a store though, not really a networking service. Do you ever see any kind of overall like PC service, like an Xbox Live or PSN or anything like that? Or is it just too Wild West to try to do that?
So Microsoft did Games for Windows Live, which was basically kind of their porting of Xbox Live onto the PC platform. It's really Steam these days. And Steam does have a back-end service to it that allows multiplayer gaming. And it also has a DRM component to it too. So generally, and I'm not an expert because I have not played a ton on PC, and I've played some. I believe it's Steam on the back end because it's so buried that I'm not consciously aware of any other service. But I believe the way it works is most games will have a multiplayer client or mode embedded in the game, and when you hit connect and go into whatever lobby you go to, you're going to that through the Steam back end. But the games I've played, and I've played like Call of Duty. I've played, a few of the Call of Duty games. I've played Homeworld Remastered, some Age of Empires. When you connect through that, it just looks like you're still in the game. Like you don't shell out into the Steam overlay or anything, as far as I can remember and know.
There's no hub or anything.
Right. So it just looks like a game on Xbox Live, right? Your Xbox Live is providing all that backbone and infrastructure, but to you, you're just in a lobby in the game.
Yeah. And now, well, we'll say that for in the future here for a second. So, okay, we go to November 2005, where you got the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, which was almost, I guess, kind of PC-like because there was no central hub really. It was just kind of game to game where you connected. Excuse me. And then you come up 2006, which is when PlayStation started off their network. Pretty much same thing, Xbox Live, more or less, and which was actually, I guess, free at first, and then they started doing the pay basically to try to get their network more up to snuff that Xbox Live was doing. And I had a PS3, so I don't know how good or bad the PSN was. From what I hear nowadays, it seems to be going pretty good, other than the hacks that was earlier in the PS4 life cycle, but or even I guess in the PS3. So
Yeah, that was really PS3, right? 2011, the big hack of the PSN backbone.
yeah,
But yeah, PlayStation Network was pretty horrible in the PlayStation 3 and console generation 7. I ranted about that on many a CAG podcast. But I will say, when you talk about there's a silver lining to everything, like the PlayStation hack and the fact that one of Sony's responses to it was to basically give away free games and I think a free like 3-month subscription to PSN, and they got so many people on board with it, and that as a result, they really had to focus on what to do to make that thing better. That was kind of the turning point for me. I didn't have a PlayStation Plus account until they did that, and from 2011 forward, like it was better. In particular, the PS Plus offerings got better, and the store got better. The online gaming service. The thing that really plagued it was the fact that Sony didn't mandate any standards in how to host and how to implement multiplayer in their games, unlike Microsoft. And that's why the big thing was with Microsoft, you kind of always knew what your multiplayer experience was going to be as far as a lobby and connecting. But Sony definitely learned from that, and it's better on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. So this will kind of bridge us into kind of present day into the future, because like you said, PSN kind of turned around once they started doing the free games, and they got their service up to snuff. You saw Xbox Live then start to do the same thing with their monthly free games and discounts on games, which I guess they kind of had before the discounts maybe, but they were more aggressive. Obviously, Xbox Live when it first started out wasn't the best selection for free games when they're doing that, but free game's a free game. That's what I always like to say. So now we have the Nintendo service, which is, like I said, which I stated at the beginning, was going to be delayed now to 2018. That's all they said. They didn't say like first quarter or January, February. They didn't really give an exact time frame. Just sometime in 2018 it's going to come out. But their service is a little different. It's actually cheaper. It's only going to be $20, basically $20 a month for a year. They have actually tiers. So you got 1 month for $4, $3.99, a 3-month membership for $8, $7.99, and then the year for $20. So with that, you'll get their multiplayer service. You'll get the classic game selections, which is going to be at the start NES games for free. But these NES games will actually have a multiplayer component added onto them, which they didn't obviously have in the back in the day, since there's no online component. And I think that's pretty much it as far as like what you get for the service. At least as of now, they haven't really gone too big into the details. You'll get some deals too along with that. So I don't know. What do you think of that service? Because it's kind of, like I said, it's cheaper. But I guess we really don't know a whole lot other than the few things they've told us so far, or if there is even going to be more more components to it or not, because it's pretty low price. So I don't know. What do you think of their service that'll eventually come out?
I think it's awesome. I think I mentioned, I can't remember exactly where. Like, I felt like this announcement knocked it out of the park, and that's a weird thing to say, right, about an announcement that's essentially informing customers of a delay. But I think it's representative of an intention to do things right. The price, which has been one of the things that we've all been worried about and speculating about as gamers, to me is amazing. Right, that it's going to be $20 a month. That to me is right where it should be. That feels, look, right, wrong, or indifferent. I feel like paying as much for things on Nintendo platforms as I do on Xbox and Sony, right? Like it feels like strategically out of joint when you say, we're making a low cost console, and we're doing this and we're doing that, but then you try and recoup that on the cartridges, right? Like that's just always felt like very disingenuous to me. So the notion that this service is going to be $20 annually, that's amazing. So yeah, I feel like it's and the big thing is and I think it kind of gets blown off or marginalized or whatever, but the fact that we're going to get to continue playing online for free, right? And we're not going to have like a really big, robust infrastructure, but it's going to be there, right? And we're going to be able to play multiplayer for free on Switch for a year.
Yeah.
Playing things like ARMS and Mario Kart and Super Street Fighter, like all these crazy games that are coming out. That's a pretty good deal, I think.
Yeah. I did forget to mention that they are the free portion of it's still going to be extended out until they actually release the service into 2018. So yeah, that's an excellent benefit. And in the past with the Wii, I guess, and the Wii U, when I've played with those systems, yeah, they didn't have a central service, but I mean the online was pretty solid. I never really had any problems. I played like Mario Kart and even Super Smash Brothers, can't talk tonight, online, and I barely had any hiccups with, I didn't have any lag. I mean, every once in a while, yeah, I mean, any game's going to get lag, but I mean, it wasn't like a constant thing. So, I mean, it was a solid service at least. So, so at least that part of it, is going to be a good deal. Another thing they did mention was for the classic game selection, you'll get to keep that as long as, you have the service, obviously, kind of like the other systems do it now. But I know initially they said that they were going to swap out the games every now and then, but from what they said here, it almost looks like when you do get the games, I guess you get to keep them. I don't know. It was kind of vague, I guess, that the last question. This is from IGN. They're kind of asking questions of the of a Nintendo rep after the press release. So it was just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it or something. So
yeah, and I think the other big part of that announcement, again, that kind of gets glossed over by gamers, is the announcement of the classic games collection, right? That it is essentially, I want to be very careful about how, so these are Zeus's like descriptive terms to define my interpretation of what we're getting. But as far as I can tell, it is at least partially it is a spiritual replacement for the Virtual Console, although I think they continue to say that they have not commented on whether or not there will also be a Virtual Console. But the point is that there will be classic Nintendo titles in this space, and the big difference is that they will not necessarily be the original. So these games will have additional enhanced content, like classic Nintendo titles that you can play multiplayer in, right? Which is a capability beyond what some of those titles originally had. So that's pretty exciting. And I feel like this announcement, although we have to wait, I feel like this announcement sealed up almost every single whole gap of uncertainty that existed around how the rest of the Switch's ecosystem was going to be filled out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of sucks that's going to be delayed, but I mean, you'd rather have it, working and solid, once it actually does come out, instead of having a broken mess. Like, well, I mean, most of the services when they've started up have been pretty decent, but they don't want to falter on this thing, since it's obviously a big component.
Right, and it's a bit of an interpretation too, right? Like, as a business, they're saying it's delayed, but like emotionally, like I don't feel like anything's being delayed. I feel like we've got an online service. It's just a bare bones online service, but what that allows us to do is pretty cool. And then next year we're going to get more stuff that's going to fleet it up to something even better. So
yeah, and I don't think, I mean, for the price, I don't think you can really argue against this service. I mean, $20. I mean, come on, it's $60 for live, and I think 60 for PSN too, or PSN Plus, PlayStation Plus. So I mean, it's going to be a good deal. And like you said, you get to play these older games when they have online components and stuff like that. So updated other components, potentially, I guess, supposedly. So now that's the future, I guess. 2018. But beyond that, what can you see like these services doing differently, better? I mean, do you see them like evolving of any kind? Evolving into a totally different service, or what can we expect for the far future? I don't want to say far future, but in a few years, let's say maybe the next console, if there is a next console cycle.
Well, what I fear and what I'm hoping we don't see, right, is I don't really want to see these services further stratified, but I feel like that's what's going to happen, right? Like when we looked back at that original Xbox Live service offering, a lot of us don't remember, but there was originally Xbox and Xbox. It was originally Xbox Live free and Xbox Live Silver.
Oh yeah.
There was a very brief period of time where you had free Silver and Gold, and then Silver was quickly retired just because when you looked at it, there wasn't a huge amount of differentiation between Silver and Gold. So I just don't really want to see us go back to that and have it really be genuine and enforced. Like, I don't want Xbox Gold to become this thing where it's more expensive and it's some of the basic services that are in Silver and free, but then there are all these wild like plugins and add-ons to the service you can make. Like, this is kind of what's happening with like the TV service packages where
the same thing.
Yeah, it's a complete maze, right? Like YouTube's offerings, maybe they aren't that bad, but the one Hulu's offerings are the ones that, like, if you want ESPN on a Tuesday with a hot dog, then it's like this price, right? But if you want it like with ketchup and onions and you want ESPN, but you don't want ESPN 2, but you do want like the Speed channel on Saturday, it's all these crazy mixtures that are not easy to understand. And I don't want that to happen. Like, I don't want you to be able to get like Xbox Live Gold with Showtime and HBO, right? Live stream or streaming, and that's an additional add-on. I just don't think we need that fragmentation and uncertainty in this space. I think it should just be you pay once, you get everything, right? And it's up to you if you don't want to consume everything. That's on you. But I fear that is what's going to happen. That we're going to see these multiple tiers and strata of different packages in the services as they seek to differentiate.
Right. And you can kind of see that, I guess, now, because like on Xbox Live, you have the EA Access, which I believe you have to have live to use. I'm not totally positive about that, but I'm pretty sure you do. And you have you have Uplay. I mean, it's a free service right now, and it's not really, that's from Ubisoft. It's more of a kind of a reward system, I guess, right now. But I mean, you never know. This EA Access, I'm assuming, is doing fairly well. I haven't really heard anything, for or against that, but I can see, Ubisoft, breaking away and doing their own service, or, hey, if you have live, you can pay, $5 more for this, stuff like that. And I forgot how much EA Access is right now. Do you know, by any chance?
No, I sure don't.
I thought it was pretty low, though. It wasn't anything, like $60 like Xbox Live, but still, you're gonna get nickel and dime to death eventually, and it's just gonna be a big mess. So, hopefully, we don't go to that, but unfortunately, we might.
And then the other thing that I would like to see, and it might happen, we're seeing little bits and tiny rumblings of this, is cross-platform, cross-domain connectivity, right? Like the ability. There's really no reason why, for third-party games especially, that if I have Call of Duty, I shouldn't just be able to play with Call of Duty players, regardless of what platform they're on. I think the tough part in that formula is even if you could get the protocols connected, and that's the thing too, like the protocols shouldn't be a reason. It's on the internet, it's TCP/IP. Like, the network, what the network code puts out on the PSN versus the Xbox Live should be exactly the same thing. But I think what would be hard is these instances where the Xbox only displays a game at 920p, the PSN is pumping it at 1080. Does that mean when packets are negotiated and online hits and stuff are negotiated, does that mean the Xbox has more overhead for performance because it's not being stressed as much to just render at 920p? Or is the Xbox at a disadvantage because it has to run all of its horses at full power to get that 920p out, while the PSN still has room to motor, at 1080p? And that has a difference in whether or not you see a shot actually impact an enemy or not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. They've kind of played with that a little bit currently and in the past. I remember on 360 they had can't remember what the shooter was. I want to say Shadowgate, but it's not Shadowgate. It was based off an old like RPG game, and I can't remember what it is now. But they had PC to Xbox.
Yeah, it was Shadowrun.
Shadowrun. There we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was a horrible travesty. Arguably, maybe the worst game on 360 at least that year. So.
Oh, come on! I love that game.
Maybe I shouldn't say that it was a travesty. It was not well received.
Well, yeah, it was. I think that was mostly because they turned into a shooter, and it wasn't. That's not what it started out to be. So, but yeah, they play with that, and then even now, like they have Rocket League, where you can actually play with PC people right now. Can't do PlayStation yet. Supposedly, that's all should be able to, but that's on Sony's end if they want to flip that switch. But and I play Rocket League all the time, and for a game, I guess it kind of depends on the game too. Like if you have a shooter, that might be another factor in it too, because obviously if you have a shooter, keyboard and mouse gonna blow away a controller any day. So, but something like Rocket League, it's just cars, car and soccer, so it's not too big of a deal. So I think they kind of probably look at that a little bit too. And I don't know if there's an easy solution other than just saying, hey, you can use a keyboard and mouse on your Xbox if you want, which I think they've been talking about, but never really came about.
Right, and that's the thing. Well, and of course the Dreamcast did it like 17 years ago, and the industry seems to have forgotten how to pull that off somehow. But yeah, and like clearly there's not technical reasons why it can't be done, right? Yeah. I mean, I have a Verizon phone, somebody else has an AT&T phone. Somehow the telecoms have figured out how to allow us to talk to each other, right? Every PC in the world that speaks TCP/IP can talk to the other along with any device, right? So I can talk to a phone or a tablet because we all speak TCP/IP. So I don't get what the problem is, but hopefully they can figure that out. But yeah, like I said, and you said, right, that leaves the big challenge of, okay, but what is that network experience like on the Xbox when it's transmitting packets to a PC and back and forth, and how does that stuff get arbitrated so everybody's on a level playing field?
Yeah, and I don't know if they did it, or I know they talked about Forza doing that too. I don't know if they've actually done cross play. I know it's cross play as far as like you can start the game on Xbox or PC and then switch to the other one. But I don't know if you can actually.
It's completely cross multiplayer, so I can.
It's cross multiplayer. Okay.
Yeah, I can be on PC and connect up with friends who are on Xbox and play with them.
Okay, and obviously they have Xbox Live is now on, or the service is on the PC too. So you have the app on the Windows 10. So kind of makes it a little bit easier now. But so let me ask you this: on the console, at least, obviously PC, you've probably played online gaming all the time. But was the first? Was Xbox 360 then the first time you played online, or is that just service-wise? Like I remember playing back on the Dreamcast. That was my first foray into online gaming. I played Quake and
nice.
Madden, which I got destroyed in. Actually, I think Madden was the first game I started playing online, and I just got destroyed. So I was like, all right, I'm not doing that anymore. But Quake, I did Quake, and that was cool. And Phantasy Star Online, which I played, who knows, endless hours on that. So with my friends, that was cool.
No, yeah. Yeah, so online gaming on a console. So I'm trying to think, did I ever play anything? Yeah, because I didn't play on handheld. I had played online on PCs for a while, and maybe even a little bit on like tablets. But on console, yeah, my first experience with that was really with the Xbox 360.
Okay, I think actually now that I think about it, I think the GameCube had a modem connected to it too, didn't it? I believe.
I'm not sure. I didn't. I never, other than a game, I never owned a Nintendo system until the 3.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it had, or at least a connection for. I don't know if it had it like native when it first came out, or it might have been like a peripheral maybe later on. But so yeah, it should be interesting to see how these services evolve and grow. Hopefully for the better for the consumer. But you never know. Any final thoughts on that?
No, man. Let's talk about what we've been playing.
All right, cool. So, like I mentioned earlier, I've been playing a lot of very different games too. So all these games are on the Xbox One, since that's all I have to play on mostly. Sometimes Nintendo, but not recently. So I have my regulars, my Rocket League, and I actually jumped into Black Ops 3 one point last weekend. I wanted to jump into something quick. been playing those two, and then Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, which
Yeah, I wanted to hear about this because was this the free Xbox game last month?
yeah, I think that was last month. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and I remember us all saying like, we don't know what the heck this is.
yeah, it's a very, very peculiar name for one thing.
So I was very surprised when I saw it on your playlist. I was very interested to hear.
Yeah, I don't even know why I played this. I was just going through my like months ago. I said I was well, no, I shouldn't say months. I think it was like 2-3 months ago. I said I want to try to go back into my catalog of the more downloadable, smaller games and kind of start playing through, which I did for a little bit. And then I just got sidetracked. So I jumped back into that, and I was just flipping through stuff, and I was like, I don't know what I want to play. There's all kinds of games. I got kind of overloaded, and then I saw this game. I was like, you know what the heck? So it's kind of a I only played like the tutorial stage or level, but kind of a side-scrolling. I don't even want to say side-scrolling because you can kind of move all the way around the screen different ways. Kind of like a Metroid, Castlevania type game where you kind of go back and forth and do different things within the levels. You're in the control of this one character, and you can pick a sidekick at the beginning. So it's just an animal basically. So I picked a dog, and there's like cat and I don't know, a few other animals that you can choose from. But basically, I was going around in the ship, and and I don't want to get into the story because it's really weird. You just have to play it to figure out the story. But you're going around the ship, which is within like this larger space station, and the ship has like guns, and it has a force field, and it has actually a couple different guns. Just kind of one that shoot like continuously, and then another giant one that's more powerful. And basically, there's little controls within the ship that you can control, and then your sidekick can control. So you can tell him go over here and take care of the shields, and while you're flying around, he'll take care of the shields while there's enemies coming at you, and then you control like the guns or whatever. So you can go back and forth. I think the only thing he can't control is the propulsion, so you can only drive the ship. So yeah, it was kind of a quirky game. Like I said, I only played the tutorial, so I only played like maybe 15-20 minutes, and then I jumped into something else. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's kind of a cool little game. It's 16-bit-ish graphics, so nothing spectacular. But yeah, it's definitely, if you ever have time, go ahead and check it out. Jump on it, check it out. It's kind of a fun little title. And then I play a couple of Lego games, Lego Avengers and Lego Dimensions. Dimensions I also played with my son last weekend, and then Lego Avengers I was just playing through it. And I don't know what it is with that game, but I always have these weird glitches where like I don't know what to do in the level. Like it's weird. I don't know why, but I'll eventually, and I get stuck, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play something else. So, but I played that, and then jump back to my backlog. Played a little bit more The Witcher 3, and then I don't know why, but this past week I had an inkling to jump back into Just Cause 3. And
now is this a title you bought last year, or I guess was it actually even last year? Was it two holidays ago? I guess.
Yeah, Just Cause 3. Yeah, I bought it originally, and the only reason I stopped playing is one day I went back into it, and I lost my save. It was just totally gone. I had to start from the beginning. So I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm not gonna start over right now. So, and I had gotten pretty far, not necessarily in the game and then the story part of it, but just doing all the side stuff. Like I was, capturing all the different. Or freeing all the villages or the cities and towns and stuff like that, and capturing the government sites and stuff like that. So I had done a ton of them, and I was just like, I'm not going to go back and go and do this.
Right.
Absolutely
one of my most fun. I won't say my best game, but absolutely one of the most fun games for me to play in the last like 2 or 3 years.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just the different ways you can destroy things is just amazing and just fun. So yeah, I jumped back into that. I was playing through. So I'm playing back through the single player campaign, which actually I think I'm further in the campaign now than I was when I stopped. So, and excuse me, and just doing the side stuff too. So
Yes. If you're a streamer or you have a YouTube channel, like Just Cause 3 is just one of those games that it's so easy to get decent content out of it, because it's just play it for 30 minutes. It like crazy things will ensue that are like video capture worthy. Like there's, we talk about this whole like notion of like, often you play a game and when you're sitting for a playing system, like there's a story, right, that unfolds like beyond the game script, but more about like the unique things that you were not prepared to see happen on a screen, or crazy things you tried that you actually pulled off to win a fight. In Just Cause 3, that's that's like every 5 minutes. It just goes
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, this game and the GTA games were a part of one of the best reasons to start the DVR stuff on these systems, because yeah, like you said, there's just wacky stuff that happens, and um, there's just a weird glitch now that I see. Yeah, and it's like happened to me the whole time now. Like when you're in one of the towns, there's in like the town square, there's like these musicians that are playing their instruments, but for some reason in this game now they don't have their instruments, but they're still playing. So they're just see the guy guitaring, and he's air guitaring basically. So it's funny. Um, so yeah, I was thinking about the last time I played too. I was like, oh man, I should be streaming this, but I didn't even think about it. So yeah, definitely the next play sessions, and I'm gonna keep going. Hopefully, as long as my save doesn't get corrupted again or I lose it. So that's pretty much all I've been playing these and that's for the last couple weeks since I was out last week. So
do you do I guess I call them bifurcated saves, meaning splitting your saves up into two streams? So what I do a lot is I have like basically I have one save file that I will save to on odd days, and a different save file I'll save to on even days, or I'll save to one file every other time. But basically I try and keep like two save files that are reasonably up to date, so that if one ever gets corrupted, that I can hope to recover from the other one.
Yeah, I actually do that normally, but in Just Cause 3 you can't do that. You can't do more than one save. It just saves like on its own. So yeah, otherwise, yeah, when I'm playing especially when I'm playing like Fallout or Skyrim, I always do like 3 saves just in case. So yeah, for any of those games, basically any game that you can pick multiple saves, I'll do at least 3 just in case. So yeah,
and that is almost the topic that I pitched for tonight. But we definitely need to have a discussion about game save systems that developers implement, and like why it seems like every developer has some like homicidal like anger towards the notion of a save anywhere gameplay. Like I don't get it. Like I don't understand why they don't do that.
Well, I don't know if you ever played any of the original not Dead Space, Capcom's Dead zombie game. I can't remember what it's called now.
Oh,
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising, yes. Yeah.
The original one. Yeah,
I played the first one on the 360.
Yeah, they only had like the save spots, so you couldn't save it like anytime you wanted to. Oh my god, that was horrible.
Like, this is the thing that if you still have more that you want to go back to in your playlist, we definitely can. But one of the things I've been playing most recently is Horizon Zero Dawn, and I love Horizon Zero Dawn. I was actually supposed to play some more Prey, but I was like, I want to play Prey, but I really prefer Horizon Zero Dawn. But there are a couple things about that game that drive me nuts, and one of those is the game save setup. So again, I'm like, I don't understand why you can't just save anywhere on this game. But there was a point literally where I was like on top of like a stone outcropping, and I could see, and they use a campfire save system, so it's a system that's analogous to the Tomb Raider game save mechanic.
Okay.
Like I could literally look over and see like 250 yards away a campfire site. And then I look to the other side in the opposite direction, 250 yards away, there's a campfire site. I'm like, why? Like, and there are campfire sites all over the place. And I get it. They're like, oh, we need to make it convenient for them to reach a safe spot. But I'm like, if it's that convenient, why can't I just save anywhere? Like, I don't even know why I need the campfire mechanic. And the only thing I can think of is like maybe some developer is like kind of like outsmarting themselves and going, oh, but just saving anywhere is really gamey, and it really takes you out of the immersion. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Running over 50 yards away to a stupid campfire just to make a game save, that breaks my immersion, right? And oh, by the way, I know that I'm in a computer game. You're not going to convince me otherwise. I'm like, so don't make something horrifically inconvenient in the name of saying, oh, it's overly gamey. It's just dumb, and it doesn't make any sense. So that's like, I love Horizon Zero Dawn, but you have to do this stupid, like, go to a campfire to save your game. And I'm like, I don't understand why. That like makes no sense to me. But other than that, Horizon Zero Dawn is a really awesome game.
I could see the logic in that, maybe in VR, That makes sense. But like in a regular game like this, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Come
well,
on.
VR is kind of lost on me too. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Yeah, that's definitely one I think we should. Yeah, that's a topic that we talk about.
yes. So
Yeah, I'm done. So yeah, you can go ahead and
okay.
go through your list.
And then I'll try and wrap us up because we are. What are we doing on time here? We're like 50 minutes in, so I'll definitely try and wrap us up and get us out of here in less than an hour. So, so one of the things I've been playing is Horizon Zero Dawn. Really love that game. And one of the big differences in why I love it more than Prey, and I bought these two games at the same time. They were my game purchases for the month of May. And obviously Horizon Zero Dawn has been on the street since late February, whereas Prey just released last month. But one of the big things is like Horizon Zero Dawn is one of those games that, again, I'm not crazy about third-person shooters, and that its game-save mechanic is kind of one of the reasons why. It's because third-person action games tend to fall into these design tropes or paradigms that I tend to not like. And it's probably true of every genre. Probably every genre has some basic design things that every developer implements, but I really dislike the ones that are in the third-person genre. Specifically, things like missions tend to be overly long. Then when those missions are overly long and you can't finish them and you're a lot of game time, there's a goofy game save system that it sometimes can wind up in you resulting in just having to get out of the game without being able to save your progress, and then you have to play a bunch of stuff over. So there's some definitely things that I tend to not like about third-person games, but one thing I do like is I like games that make you feel powerful. I don't like games that make you feel like the odds are overwhelming and you're barely surviving. I prefer games kind of like Destiny, right? Destiny evokes this feeling of, hey, I'm a bad dude, like, but if these guys really gang up on me, the numbers are going to get to me, so I still need to watch myself. But one-on-one, mano-y-mano, like, I'm Billy Bad Behind of the Galaxy, right? That's what Destiny makes me feel like. Crisis makes me feel like that. You put that suit on, particularly when you're the second dude, rather than the first, like, I feel powerful. And being able to melee punch enemies in combat is a big part of that. Horizon evokes that feeling. I feel like when playing as Aloy that I'm really and one of the things I interestingly noted in one of my live streams of the game is in one gameplay session, I went from fearing every single, I call them Mechasaurs, just to make it easy, but like I feared every Mechasaur. I felt like I had to sneak around all the time. In the span of 30 to 45 minutes, I grasped enough of the game system that I don't walk around in fear of those things. Like literally the first 10, 15 minutes back into the game, like I would hear them and I would like immediately hide. I'm like, oh man, there's one stalking nearby. Now I'm like, oh, there's like 10 of these things. I'm gonna drop down here on the edge so I can start taking out this entire herd. But I'm gonna work from this point to the inside, right? And I got to play one awesome gameplay sequence. I didn't record it, but where I faced my first, I think they're called Stalkers or Striders or something like that. They're the first of the really big, aggressive Mechasaurs that you take on just before, I forget what the ceremony is called, but your coming of age ceremony, the one where you're going to try and win it so that you can be accepted by the tribe and be able to ask that the sisterhood or whatever tell you whatever you command them to. So, but it was pretty awesome. You get this, it's kind of like a bowcaster, but it shoots this arrow with a wire on it, and you plant it in the ground in one place and then shoot and plant it in another place, and it creates a snare for people to trip across that actually shocks the dinosaur. So this first beast that I attacked, like you can't take it down head to head. So I set like 3 of those shock snare traps, and then like another proximity shock trap and 2 like blast shock traps. But the real coup de grace was I set all those get set off by contact. The snares get set off by contact, and then the other traps that I set get set off by proximity. But then I set this one that you have to shoot it to make it go off. So, so basically, I had to taunt this thing and get it to run at me to get caught in the first 3 traps, then run a specific route to get it to get hit by these proximity ones. And with the shock ones, every time it stopped, I would try and fill it with as many fire arrows as I could before it started moving again. But then, and terrain-wise, it was coming at me down this pathway, and then I had to turn and run up this hill, and then continue running uphill. So it was like a 2-part hill or whatever. But when I turned the second corner, I had to turn around, fire my arrow, hit this detonation trap, which had kind of this big balloon, but the balloon was brown and it was at night, so it like blended in perfectly with the grass. But I had to turn around and hit this thing right as the Mechasaur was passing by it, and I'm like, I'm never going to pull this off. But I pulled it off, and that was the killing blow. That is an amazing feeling, right? When you take, and this is, I'd been killed by this thing like 3 or 4 times beforehand. Let's get it straight. But like that feeling of perfectly executing a strategy and then nailing the game mechanics of sprinting, quickly turning around and firing an arrow and hitting this thing in the dark and blowing up and seeing this Mechasaur just pieces go flying. That's an amazing, fulfilling experience, and that's what Horizon Zero Dawn represents to me. So, awesome game. I also went back and played some Prey this week. Prey is a very ominous... It's a game that sits on you. It is... and I've drawn these analogies before. It is a lot like System Shock 2. It's a lot like Dead Space. It moves faster and more fluidly and is more kind of towards the shootery end of it, but it definitely has those kind of survival horror in space mechanisms to it. I don't like it. I like the game, but it's the things I feel about it. It's not Prey from 2006. It's not a spiritual successor to that, and I love that game. It makes you walk around with a lot of trepidation. You slowly creep around because these mimics, which are these things that are in the game that can appear as anything, right? So you can walk into a room and guarantee you something in that room, a trash can, a coffee mug, a notebook, is a mimic. And they will then transform when you get in proximity and attack you. And the thing that I really kind of felt in my gameplay session this weekend was they're a little too, like, how quickly they move. And the only weapon I have right now is a goo gun, which you blast them with, it immobilizes them, and then you smash them with a big monkey wrench. But they move very quickly. If there's like 5 of them in a room, like that fight will take you down to almost 0 health. And that's not fun, because I feel like these mimics that you're first being exposed to are kind of like the rats in EverQuest. They're like really a low level power threat that the threats are going to get bigger, but the reality is I faced bigger threats later, and I took them down more easily. So again, it's just a design element in this game. Like I don't like meager minor enemies that I feel like I'm like to fire a round of ammunition at them is a waste of a round of ammunition. Yeah. To be that difficult, right? They're a nuisance enemy in the game. And they do way too much more than they should. But yeah, it's an interesting game. It definitely comes at things from a unique vector. One of the coolest things in it from a story writing perspective is it took me so long to figure this out. So there's a point where you've been told there's a lot about this game that feels like BioShock, and to the point where you have this person talking to you, giving you guidance to get through the map. Although I think at the end of the day, that person is really an AI agent, but it still has the same feel. It's like the exact same thing of the little overlay that comes up in the corner with a dude talking to you, just like BioShock, and Far Cry, right? The original Far Cry, and like every other game out there today. But I'm right outside my office, and I'm reading this guy. I'm in this guy's computer reading his email, and his password is "Oh my God, hot boss," all one word. And at this time, I'm a little confused between the names of the characters because I haven't played the game. I played the intro to the game and then put it aside. But there's an Alex Yu and a Morgan Yang, right, or something. I forget what his last name is, but they're both Asian, and I forget which one I am. So throughout reading this email and listening to some voicemails and stuff, again, I'm a little confused. So I think I'm going into Alex's office. Alex is actually one of the NPCs in the game who I guess at this point is kind of an enemy. But at this point, I think I'm going into Alex's office. I do a bunch of stuff in there. I come out. As I'm coming out, I go by this dude's desk again. Now I can see that he has a placard on his desk that says personal assistant. Now I realize I was just in, and while I'm in the office, I realize that it's my office that I'm in through some other dialogue things. So as I come out, I see personal assistant, and I put two and two together, and I finally realize, oh, this guy is my personal assistant. And then I'm like, oh, wait, his password is saying I'm a hot. So of course, which makes him, he's. I'm assuming it's a he because the name is Jeffrey. So so written into the story is the notion that your personal assistant is gay and is attracted to you, right? Which doesn't bug me. It struck me as this very intricate, nuanced storytelling in a first-person shooter survival horror game. That if you want to talk about something that makes you feel immersed in a story, that does it, right? It's not some of the goofy gamism. It actually made me think of myself in that situation, right? Playing that character. So well written. Guerrilla. Not Guerrilla. Wait, not Guerrilla. I don't know who did Prey. Arcane Studios. Is Arcane the ones who did Dishonored?
I don't know.
That's Bethesda, right?
Yeah, they're both Bethesda. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think these are the guys who did Dishonored, which is pretty impressive. And then other than that, I've been revisiting Destiny. Like I said, I bought all that DLC, and so it's enjoyable going through it. There's actually quite a number of missions that I never played actually from the original campaign. So I'm kind of playing a mix of like Taken King and Rise of Iron.
Yep.
And original missions that I didn't complete. So it's pretty good. There's this healthier mix of content in the game now where if I want to play something short that I know that I can knock out, or play something really long and meaty, I have those options now. And I'm finding legendary equipment here and there, which is really nice because there's not guaranteed to be a ton of that in the game. So it's pretty awesome.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I almost bought that DLC a few weeks ago because it was on sale, but I was like, maybe it gets a little cheaper. I'll buy it. The whole pack. Yeah.
I would definitely say if it pops up on sale again, it's worth it. I mean, and to be quite honest, like if you decide that you don't want to, or you can't jump into the Destiny 2 deep end of the pool when it comes out, having the Destiny DLC is content that's well enough to buy you time, right? Until you can make that purchase. So
yeah. Assuming they keep those servers up for a long time, or a decent amount of time at least.
The voice track from Bungie is that the original Destiny is not going anywhere. So to be quite honest, I would not be surprised to see Destiny 2 drop and to see at least one more DLC expansion pack from Bungie for the original Destiny.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But as far as I can tell, it's definitely going to be around for, I would say, I'm going to go on record as saying a couple of years.
Yeah, I can see that. At least a couple of years, yeah.
So before we wrap up, did you have any questions about Horizon Zero Dawn or Prey?
I did have something about Prey, but now I can't remember what I was going to ask you. I should have wrote it down before. I forgot. I always forget things. No, I don't remember. But I just did want to make a comment on how you're saying how you like to be powerful, and that was one of the things I don't like about Skyrim and even Fallout 3. I'm not sure about Fallout 4 yet because I haven't played too much into it yet. But the enemies, they basically level up with you, which kind of sucks.
Right.
There's ways around it, like in Skyrim, you can do like alchemy stuff and you can do magic, but that only lasts for like a few minutes or so. So eventually it's just gonna wear off, and then you're kind of weak. I mean, if you're at the end of the game, yeah, you're a little bit more powerful. You can defeat those larger enemies a little bit easier. It's still a bit of a challenge, but I know, like I think in Oblivion though, they didn't level with you, and it was nice going back. You at the beginning of the game, you wander into a section you probably shouldn't have, and you get destroyed. You play through the game, maybe halfway through, you go back, and you could just like whoop them, with no problem, and it was that felt good. But the Skyrim way, I was like, okay, it's okay, I guess. But I always like that um, go into an area, when you're fully armed or powerful, and you could just kill the enemy with no problems, and then you're just like, yeah.
Right, and I know we're going over, but like I just inherently disagree with that design ethos, right? That I get it. I understand why you have enemies that scale up to maintain the challenge, but
Yeah.
But again, there should be a reward from becoming more powerful, and like you said, look, maybe it's kind of like we are in real life, right? I mean, I don't know how everybody else grew up, but I grew up as a little skinny, wimpy kid, right? And so part of my reward in life is there are certain places that I can go now that I don't worry about being the small, wimpy kid in a bar, right? So in a game, you should, as you progress and get more skilled, there should be a kind of a little bit of a Karate Kid effect, right? You should be able to, like you said, go back to that dungeon where those level 17 enemies were or whatever, and put the smackdown on them and be like, the first time around things were different, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm the one who's going to send you guys packing. So yeah, to me, I'm sure everybody has a certain thing that they like about games, and that at the end of the day, that's a big thing for me. Like, if I'm the guardian who saved the galaxy, right, I should feel powerful. I shouldn't feel like every fight is a fight for my life, right?
Yeah.
At some point you should be Batman, right? So yeah, awesome, very cool. Sorry I went so long, but
No.
Really got into the meat of Horizon Zero Dawn. I kind of want to report out on like the gameplay experience in those.
So how much of Horizon have you played now?
Probably about 4 hours of Horizon, and I've probably played maybe half that in Prey. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So before we go, any plugs or any last words of any kind?
Just the standard plugs. Check out the Band of Gamers channel on YouTube. Get caught up on all the past episodes. We have 2 more weeks. So after this episode, there will be 4 more episodes. So catch our new show this Thursday, and then next week, Osiris Prime will be off, but DBQ and I will be on the boards. The intention is we will be doing 3 E3 shows, so Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night. So we will start off covering all of the press conferences that go down Sunday before the official start of E3, and then we'll be doing coverage every other day throughout the week. So, and then after that, we will rebrand, relaunch, and reboot under a new name. You may start seeing indications of what that new name is going to be over the next couple weeks, probably in some odd and not obvious places. So keep your eye out and try and catch little details. We'll, of course, do something official to inform everyone right before the reboot relaunch. But in the meantime, look for clues. And that will happen the week after E3. So expect that show. I don't want to say the first show will be longer, but it'll be something different because we'll probably spend a little time maybe talking over, pulling back the curtain, right? Talking to you guys about why we rebranded, why we relaunched, the ethos behind the name, and kind of what you can expect from the future of the show, at least for some time during that first episode. And then we'll get into the normal stuff like we normally do. So there's that. And then if you want to check out gearworks.com, which you can see written right down here. Hangouts is actually auto-switching the cameras tonight, which it has not done with last few shows, so I can actually see the screen when I'm talking. So go over to gearworks.com. Most recently, the Band of Gamers podcast has formed the biggest chunk of content. I have not done an after-action report. I need to do that to aggregate my Dreadnought 3 my Dreadnought gameplays in the PS4 beta, and the Horizon Zero Dawn stuff that I've just recently talked about. but there's also a trend of in the home theater series posts over there. So recently I've been watching a lot of movies over Memorial Day weekend. I still have to watch Magnificent Seven, which I hope to get into tonight. And I'll post a review of that fairly shortly. But I've been watching a ton of things which have just recently dropped, mostly on digital. So there are reviews up there of Logan, the Wolverine, which has not dropped recently on digital, but I had to fill in that gap after watching Logan. But also, probably most importantly, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So that review is up on the site as well. And then I'm rounding off Infinity, my YouTube channel. You can check out, like I said, the stuff that I need to post over on the blog, but some gameplay from the Dreadnought beta is there, as well as the other stuff we've been talking about.
Cool. Awesome. And then for me, YouTube, you can go to TileMaster99, as you see over here. And then Twitch is Osiris_Prime to catch some gameplay. And hopefully I'll be streaming again soon. I kind of was doing it a few months ago, and then I kind of dropped off again. So it's, life.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Are you going to be trying out any of the other services like Beam/Mixer, or have you tried streaming directly to Facebook or Twitter?
No, yeah, I actually do want to. I always forget about Mixer now. I want to try to jump into that and see. Obviously I did that once, and it fell off just because. I think actually that's when I stopped again, just because I lost that episode because I forgot, or I didn't forget, but I didn't know it was only 2 weeks that it saves it for you, so I couldn't get it off of there in time on my YouTube channel. But yeah, I'll definitely want to check out Mixer again and see if there's anything like totally different. I haven't done it since it changed to Mixer. I don't know if there really is a big difference or not, but.
I would also say check out streaming directly to YouTube as well. That's what I did over the weekend, and it seemed to operate a lot more stably and a lot better than it was doing like a year ago. So I kind of felt incentivized to switch over to Beam/Mixer, which was really stable and really high throughput.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going to be doing that for good. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to rotate amongst all 5 of the services. So Mixer, YouTube, Twitch, and then I'm also going to try streaming to Twitter and Facebook and see how those do, and just see what the video quality differences are and the stability differences. That's the big thing for me, is stability, is just getting a stream to maintain its integrity and stream the whole time, and then what does the video quality look like once I get done. But
nice.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to check out Beam/Mixer.
Yeah, I definitely want to try it. Yeah, I didn't know you could do that on Twitter. I knew Facebook, there's a Facebook Live, but I didn't know Twitter.
You can. I have not broken that code yet.
Okay.
I've seen it advertised in various places that you can stream directly to Twitter, and not like with Periscope, but
right.
Some other means. But I need time to experiment and play with that, but I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. All right, so that brings us to the end of episode number 93 of the Band of Gamers podcast. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends and family. And on behalf of myself, Osiris Prime, and Zeux, we will see you next time.